bringing to the WAPJ airwaves. It's the one, it's the only T-Boz.
I think I love you. That's how easy love can be. Poor Jerome, he was supposed to be the lead singer. But,
it's Jermaine, it's Jermaine, not Jerome.
Oh, Jermaine. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited up. I was jumping around with that song, and I had my big purple hat on, and, hey, what a great group. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we're laughing. We're Friday Eve. The Jock has dubbed this wonderful day. Beautiful weather today. Get out there and do your lawn work or take a walk with your girl, your guy, whatever you want to do. Please don't waste the day. It's out there. Go out and grab it. Welcome in, everyone. George, keep handing out the pencils and pads, dude. There's a lot of people coming in. I just want to thank you all for spending time with Jock and I here on the Feel Good Show. This segment is called Words of Wisdom and Moments of Meditation. And a couple of years ago, Jock had invited me on, and I've been very blessed over the last 2 years to do this program along with him and to inspire and to maybe motivate and to give insight, really. I don't think I'm a motivational speaker. I think I'm more of an insightful speaker. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Jock and I take the grocery store approach. Take what you want and leave what you don't want on the shelf. But I'm here to give you insight and to get you to think, okay? You don't have to agree with me, or you don't have to agree with Jock. You don't have to be a liberal, a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative. It doesn't matter what religion you are, what color you are. But we all have the mind to think and take from these talks something that you can go and impact the world with. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we get going, as always, bring them on in, George. Bring them in. Hold the door. Yes, you could use the couches. Yes, all those couches are open there by the window. That's fine. So what I want to do is go over to Stan. Stan, say it with me, everyone. Coffee man, that's right. And good morning, Stan. How are you? You're looking very autumnal. And what do we have in the coffee pot today? House Blend Dark Roast Supreme. Oh, I could smell it when I was coming up the hallway. By the way, one day I'm going to tell everyone, those of you who listen on the radio, what the classroom looks like. But I'll give you a peek. We are upstairs in an old factory on Water Street, and it's a big room. Actually, we're across the street from WATJ, and these TV screens behind me is how I see Jock. And so that's a little hint. But anyway, Stan, the coffee man. So we have the Supreme Roast, and we have, more pumpkin pie, pumpkin bread, tomato juice, very good, and, of course, fruits. And, hot and cold apple cider. Wonderful, wonderful. So feel free to go up, everyone. And after the show, if you want to hang around, usually Jock comes across the street and chats with all of us. If you want to sit and talk with him and discuss the topic today, that's fine. There are no shout-outs today, but as you can tell, Jock and I chat during his other two shows, and I recommend you guys listen to his Tuesday show, his Wednesday jazz show. And obviously today he has a lot of great things. And he has some good insight, too, when he opens up his shows, his little monologues. But so he and I talk off the air a lot of times about everything from politics to religion to him throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball in college, all that good stuff. And we're talking about changing and focus and vision and where is Torrington going in the future, where is the country going in the future, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of our conversation, and so we're going to have a quote today by Jock Williams. At the end of this conversation, he said to me, and I said to him, do you think we make a difference? And he said to me, Boz, we'll make a difference at 11:15. And I thought that was so appropriate for what we're going to talk about today, and I'll tell you in a minute, I will tie this together. But my question to all of you in the classroom, those of you listening on air, those of you Zooming the presentation, what's your 11:15? What are you doing? Not the money you're making, the business you're doing, the client, and not all that. What are you doing? As Jock says, we'll make a difference at 11:15. What are you doing in your life to make a difference? What's your 11:15? This is our 11:15, okay? But what's yours? Doesn't have to be a radio show. Doesn't have to be, a concert or something. What are you doing to make a difference, to change the lives of people, starting at home? Maybe what are you doing to impact your children's life, your spouse's life, neighbors? What's your 11-15? And by what I mean by that, too, is what are we doing? You know what I say in this show, you, me, we, to leave a legacy. And legacy comes out of living a life. And that life, as you know, is short. And that life, though we all start young, that life, we get older. And today's topic, which kind of grew out of that conversation with Jock, what is your 11-15? How do we get older? How do we cope with aging? Okay, and so our format today is we're going to examine quotes, as we always do, either by scripture or by famous people, and we're going to talk about dealing with aging. Okay, it's the new puberty, boys and girls, right? I would imagine most people watching this show are over the age of 50 or listening to this show via stream and all of those good things. But it's the new puberty, right? So we've exchanged our pimples for wrinkles. The things that used to look out are looking down. We traded in our muscle cars for bus tours when we go out. Okay? And we're not here to talk about not dying, because death is not a curable illness, right? But what we're going to talk about today is trying to have a decent and good quality of life and a good attitude to the good quality of life as we progress through these years, as we age, okay? Some of us don't move as quick. Some of us maybe not as sharp. How many of you go down the basement to go get something and you say, what the heck did I come down here for? But you can talk about what happened in 1972 like it just happened yesterday, right? So this is all part of the aging process that we're going to explore today. And what I've also done is I put in some very funny quotes by George Burns, who played Oh God in the 1977 film. And I put a couple of his quotes sprinkled in. My friend Alicia on the Saturday morning show, Alternative Anthem, says dance music sprinkled in. So I sprinkled in some George Burns stuff to kind of lighten the mood. But aging is not easy. I aged early because I had to give up my license when I was 40 years old. I had stopped driving for 26 years. 26 years. Okay, there's some of you out there, you're 80, 85. I know a woman who's 94, they're still driving, all right? It's going to hurt when you got to give up that license. You give up your independence, you got to rely on people, and that's what aging does to us. We begin to become more reliant on our children. We need to become maybe on our neighbors, our friends, and things change, okay? And like I said, we're not as quick as we used to be, but there is hope in all of this. Speaking of hope, we're going to open up the show with a funny thing that Bob Hope said. Now, everyone's saying, but Boz, you said George Burns. I know, but Bob Hope was born in Ethlam, England in 1903. And as you know, my girlfriend's from England, so whether it's Winston Churchill or somebody, we have to have a Brit on the show. And so Bob Hope says this: you know you're getting older when the candles cost more than the cake. So it's a little funny anecdote there about aging. Let's get over to our scripture verses, and then we'll keep rolling along here. We start with Job, chapter 12, verse 12, and he says, wisdom is with the aged, and understanding in lengthened of days. Boom, right? And so a lot of us think, oh, youth is wasted on the young. Yeah, it is, because the human mind, boys and girls, cannot reason until it's 23 years of age. That's why when you have teenage children, you're pulling your hair out of your head. Even though they go to college and they graduate, they cannot reason. But Job tells us that wisdom is with the age, and we are wise now. We are much wiser. A lot of us had businesses that failed, and now we're successful. A lot of us had relationships that have failed, and now we're successful. We might have had situations with our children or coworkers or companies that we're in, but we're wiser now because we've been experienced, okay? And so it also says understanding. That's the thing, when you're young, you don't understand. You want to do everything your way, me. Jock and I were talking about this earlier. But as you get older, you have understanding. The word understand means to get under and lift up. And so we are more understanding as we age. We look at Psalm chapter 92, verse 14, and he says, they still bear fruit in old age and have sap and are green. So let me just read that again. They still bear fruit in old age. They are ever full of sap and are green. And so a lot of you may be saying, well, I was like that when I was younger. Yeah, when I was 30. Yeah. That's not the right attitude. Part of aging is having the right attitude and realizing what you can and cannot do, accepting, like I had to accept the fact of giving up my license. It was a good move because if I kept driving, I would have killed myself and someone else, and I had to rely on other people, all right? But accepting that and owning it was better than fighting it and hating it. I don't like it. I'm not going to lie to all of you, but it was something that I had to accept. And so it says to us in Psalms that they still bear fruit. You know, Lee Iacocca, when he went to Chrysler and he started the minivan, he pulled all his cronies out of retirement. They were 70, 75 years old, all sitting on yachts and all this other kind of stuff. And he wanted to create this minivan. As you know, he's the father of the Ford Mustang. So he wanted to create the minivan with something new. So rather than talk to the young kids that were around in those days, he went to the guys that were aged and wise and new cars and new people and new trends. And he tapped on their brains and their wisdom and understanding and came up with a minivan, which even though Lee Iacocca is gone and probably all those guys that worked on it, we talked about legacy. What's your 1115? The minivan has impacted people's lives, soccer moms, right? We all know that. So he pulled people out. So just because you're over 50, just because you're over 60 or 70, you still have sap, okay? You still can bear fruit. It's not over till it's over. You guys know who said that, Yogi Berra. Here's an unknown quote. Aging is the process by where you become the person you should have been. Bing, bang, boom. How many of us have taken so many years? We say it on this show, be yourself. Everyone else is taken so many years trying to be somebody else, trying to be something we're not. But aging is a process, it says, by where you become the person you should have been. Now, I know we're not supposed to say should on this show, right? Because when you point the finger at someone saying you should, there's three pointing back at you. But, you get to a certain age and you just say, enough already. You're trying to mold myself into something. I'm going to be the person. I'm going to find the career. I'm going to volunteer. There's a lot of people down at WAPJ that are in their 80s and 70s, and they've always loved radio. They had their careers. Some of them were teachers. Some of them were journalists, whatever. But now they can just relax and do what they want to do. So be the person that you should have been. We're going to go to another George Burns quote here. And it says, you can't help getting old, but you don't have to get old. Boom. And what did he say? You don't have to get old. Some of us are letting ourselves get old. We're starting to have an attitude like, well, we can't do this anymore. We can't do that. Yes, physically there are some things you can't do, but you still have the sap. You're still green. And even though that's a funny line, you don't have to get old. There's some wisdom in that. And it talks about having self-esteem, having the self-confidence that you are still a valued part of society. He also says in another funny thing, I can't die. I'm booked. And though that's funny, I can't die, I'm booked. What Burns is really saying here is I'm valuable. I'm purposeful. I have a reason to be here, just like everyone listening to this show, all of you in the classroom. You're not done because you're over 65 or 70. You're not done because you can't shovel the driveway as fast as you used to. You're not done because you can't go up a 40-foot ladder. There are other things for you to do and to accomplish. We look at Deuteronomy, and it says Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was undimmed and his vigor unabated. Boom. So Moses' eye was undimmed. Are some of you letting your eyes become dim? Life has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Are some of you letting your eyes become dim because of things like Israel, things like the Ukraine, things like homelessness? It's never hopeless. We talked about that last week on the show, about the spirit being bent. But Moses was 120, and he still had something in his vision in his eye. His vigor was unabated. It may not have been like when he was 40, but he still had that. And this is what all of us have to keep inside of us. Never to get dim, never to give up. I think it's 11:30, Jock, so why don't we do the break? Yeah, and then we'll keep rolling along.
Thank you, T-Boz. And we want to give a big shout out to all of our sponsors here at WAPJ for allowing us to bring you the quality community radio programming that we're able to do so at this time. And if you are interested in sponsoring WAPJ programming, please get in touch with us at wapj.org and get all the information. With that being said, we'll return the show back over to T-Boz for more words of wisdom and moments of meditation.
Clint Eastwood, the great actor, his great movie Sudden Impact, 1983, that great line, "Go on, make my day." When people asked him, "Hey, Clint, how do you stay so active with your movie career? You're an elder man now. How do you keep up with all the activities?" And his quote is, "I keep the old man out." Boom. Some of us have let the old man or old woman in. There are people at work or your neighbors who are 45 and they're old. They come home, they sit on the couch, they say they're exhausted, right? And so Clint Eastwood says, "I keep the old man out." And what he means by that is a lot of times, I don't buy my wife flowers anymore. We did that. We don't, after we go to a concert, we just go right home because we're 60. That's how you let the old man in. My brother's mother-in-law is going to be 81 in November. When we go out to concerts with her, the whole group of us, and most of us are over 65. When we go out to these concerts, her name is Connie. She always says, "Where are we going to go for coffee afterwards?" We go to the New Colony Diner. You know what time we get home? 2:00 in the morning. And some of you going, "Oh, I can't." But that's how you let the old man in. We go to a concert, we have a good time. We go to the diner, we're pouring coffee, we're having bacon and egg. We're out, we're alive. We have our health, thank God. But we don't let the old man in. It's okay once in a while, boys and girls, stay out till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. My friend Fred said at one of these events, we were coming home 2 in the morning. He says, "Look at this." He said, "There are some people, unfortunately, that are our age that are in nursing homes. But if you've got the life and the vitality and you don't have the dim eye and you still have the vigor and you got the sap and you're still green, stay out once in a while. Don't worry about it. Don't let the old man in." My friend Pete McClintock, some of you recognize that name when I was in the Amway business, all right? And Pete McClintock used to say, "I'd rather wear out than rust out." What happens to what's better to buy a car with high mileage than one that's sitting? Because the one that sits, all the seals leak. So as we age, it's important, and we're going to get to what the National Institute of Aging talks about, it's important to keep moving. Maybe it's cutting your grass. Maybe it's walking. Maybe vacuuming in your home. But find something that you keep moving. Don't let the old man in and say, "Oh, well, my wrist is sore today. I'm not going to do anything." If you're physically able, it's better to wear out than rust out. We look at Genesis 24, verse 1, and it says, "Now Abraham was old and well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things." Part of aging is, do you all feel blessed in all things? I mean, a lot of you have had crap happen in your life, right? We talked about my friend Marshall last week who lost a daughter to breast cancer, right? A lot of you had crap in your life, but do you still feel blessed in all things? St. Paul says, "Be grateful in all circumstances." So as we age, instead of saying, "Oh, I wish I was young again," I wish you were young, be happy that you're 65, 70, that you've got some friends, you go out to dinner, you can go to New Colony Diner at 2:00 in the morning, okay? But in order to age gracefully, you have to feel blessed in all things. Instead of looking at the stuff you don't have or the things you didn't get in life, look at the grandchildren you have, the house you have. It might be small. Who cares? Only 2/3 of Americans own their own home. Imagine that. So if you own your own home, be like Abraham, blessed in all things. Blessed in all things. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16. So we do not lose heart. Though our old self is wasting away, our inner self is renewed. Boom. So what's happening within? Didn't we hear a great quote a couple of weeks ago? The journey within. Even though our bodies are not as strong, like I said, we got, instead of pimples, we got wrinkles. But our inner self, going back to wisdom, what we learned in Job and understanding. So our inner self is renewed. You begin to know more. You begin to appreciate things. You begin to love the small things in life, like spending time with your friends. So Corinthians teaches us that. We look at Les Brown, the great band leader, right? And I think Les Brown wrote the song for Bob Hope. Les Brown says, "You're never too old to dream." And a lot of us start to get old. Not sometimes physically. I mean, you all are probably nodding your head. You know people that are in physically good shape, but they think old, right? But you're never too old to dream. Now, maybe you're not going to go build a company like Steve Jobs, right? Colonel Sanders started at 70. Ronald Reagan became president at 70. We have a current president, Joe Biden. President Joe Biden is in the 80s. But never too old to dream. When you lose the dream, and it doesn't have to be huge, like I just said, it could be a small dream, but something that you dream to do. Maybe it's eating at all the Italian restaurants in Torrington. The problem is a lot of us think it's got to be huge in order to be good. No, the best part of life is the smaller slice. Remember that song by Air Supply? That's the opening line in that song. The best part of life is the thinner slice. So get yourself a dream, something that you can accomplish, okay? And so that you feel good about yourself. Betty Friedhand, yes, we have feminine activists on this show, boys and girls. The door is open, right, George, to everyone. All right? So Betty says, aging is not lost youth, but it is new opportunity and strength, a different kind of strength. I love what she says, lost youth. A lot of us, and I'm saying the same thing over and over again. We see our aging as lost youth, but it's not. It's a new kind of youth, right? It's a more wiser youth. It's a more experienced youth. It's more an appreciation youth. Okay, so Betty's right when she says aging is not lost youth, but it's a new opportunity and new strength. We come back to our buddy George Burns with another funny line, and he says, you're getting older when you bend down to tie your shoes and you say, what else can I do while I'm down here? So, again, George Burns kind of lightening up the aging process. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It wasn't easy for me to give up my license, all right? Not easy, but I've had a full life, even though my life was not dependent on driving. My life would have been different if I drove. My life is dependent on driving. My life is dependent on my family, the children, the people that are in my life that I love. Eleanor Roosevelt, we're still having, residuals from Washington. Eleanor Roosevelt says, beautiful young people are an accident of nature, but a beautiful old person is a work of art. Boom. And she's so right there, right? Not the Botox stuff you see with Madonna and all of that, but a lot of women and men, guys, remember Cary Grant, strikingly handsome women are beautiful. What she's talking about, a work of art. What you've been through your life, you've been groomed, you've been sculptured to the person you are today. You're probably more beautiful, not only in physical beauty, but we said in mind and spirit and love. And so Roosevelt sees the inner us, right? Again, we talk about the inner journey. John Lennon says, the great Beatle, unfortunately, we lost him way, way too young. John Lennon says, count your age by friends, not years. Count your life by smiles, not tears. Count your age by friends, not by years. Count your life by smiles, not tears. Boom. Too many of us equate where we are in life by the years and the hurts. We talked about that last week, right? Robert Schuller said, look at the hopes, not the hurts, right? So John Lennon is saying the same thing. As we age, look around you, okay? Friends. I talk about this all the time on the show. I have a lot of friends, more friends than I ever had, real friends. Before I had associates. Now I have real, dyed-in-the-wool friends. That's the best 401k next to health that you're ever going to have. I mean, I have friends, not TV friends, real friends, okay? And so Lennon says, look at that. So that's what you put in your value. But when you're older, like I am, I'm 66, not that you don't put value on friends when you're younger, but it just, to me, it means more. You realize that life is short, that people are going to be passing away, that death is not a curable illness, as we said earlier. So you value those people, not for what they can do for you, but how they make you feel. My friends make me feel valuable. Right back what George Burns said. I can't die, I'm booked. My friends make me feel that I'm of value to their life, even though they do more things for me than I can ever do for them. But that's not the way the game is played. Okay? So John Lennon is right there when he talks about friends. We look at the Apostle James in chapter 4, verse 14, and he says, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring, what your life, for you are but a mist that appears for a while and then vanishes. Bing, bang, boom. You're right back to what Lennon said. Your life is here as a mist. And it's done. And that takes us, boys and girls, all the way back to what Jock Williams said. We'll make a difference at 11:15. So if your life is but a mist, as you age, not what you take with you, but what are you going to leave behind? Your legacy. And as we age, we begin to appreciate those things. And if we accept our aging process, if we keep the old man out, if we have a better attitude about sometimes the things we can't do anymore and have your son-in-law do it, you're only but a mist. So do something, be something for someone, and leave a legacy. The National Institute for Aging has a bunch of things. We can't go into all of these, but one, getting exercise, at least 150 minutes a week. You know, walking is good and those types of things. Not smoking. Boys and girls, I don't care if you smoke 1 cigarette a year or 10 a day. Smoking is the worst thing that has ever been invented by the human mind. Here's what smoking is. Go upstairs in your attic, get the insulation out of the wall, roll it up, stick it in your mouth, and light it with a match and breathe in deep. That's what smoking is. In our group of widowers who are all now in new relationships, of all the people I know, only one person got to be 72. Everyone else didn't make it past 68, and they were all smokers. They're coffin nails. If you're smoking, I pray that you stop. Smoking leads to a lot of illnesses, too many to mention. So smoking is not good. And also drinking, limiting or stopping drinking. A doctor told my brother our country consumes way too much alcohol, a lot of sugar, carbs, and that. So as you age, you want to have good quality. You want to age gracefully. You want to be able to spend time with your friends and your grandchildren and stay out till 2 o'clock and not let the old man in. Cut back to drinking, okay? It keeps on going. Isolation. Try not to be isolated. You know, so I love to be by myself. You know, people aggravate me. I'd rather be with a bird. You know, you need people, okay? Jesus didn't start his church with birds and rabbits. He started it with people. Okay, so make sure you're not being isolated. If you know older people, you know, go over and talk to them. Activities and that involve other people. Walking is good, but try to walk with someone else. That's why I love my square dance club, because there's people there, okay? You need people, so get into activities. Bowling, you know, sometimes at our age you can't be doing softball, running around, spraining your ankle, that kind of thing, but bowling is a great thing to do. I know my friend Jim enjoys bowling, Veronica, Lady Boz loves bowling, so activities are good. Regular checkups, we all don't like going to the doctor, but regular, it doesn't say once in a while. And then diet, fats, sugar, carbohydrates. I know we love the brajol and the manigot. I love it too, and the garlic bread, okay? But you got to start to limit some of that stuff if you really want to have a decent quality of life as you age. But that's what aging is understanding and wisdom, saying, you know what, I want to have a good next 20 years. Look, what can I do to make that happen? Frank Lloyd Wright says, the longer we live, the more beautiful life becomes. Boom. And I think of my friend Charlie when he always talks about appreciation. I said that a little earlier. Why does life become more beautiful? Because you come to appreciate it. Because, you know, at 66 years old, where I am now, I can see the finish line. Maybe I'll get 14 years. Maybe I'll get 20 years. I don't know, but I could see the finish line. Okay? And so what Charlie always talked about appreciation. So what Lloyd Wright is saying about life becomes more beautiful, we become more appreciative as we age. That's the good news. Maybe we're not as swift as we were, but we appreciate people, maybe our homes, our parishes, our friends. Just Jock and I were talking earlier about the Northwest Corner. I love it here. Okay, you begin to appreciate, and so that's how life becomes more beautiful. George Burns says, people ask me, when am I going to retire? He says, why do I have to retire? I'm still making movies, and I'm a senior citizen, and I get to watch myself for half price. Oh, again, some of you are still working your careers and jobs. That's good. Don't let it define you. Have a plan that there's other things in life besides working, and, try to do things that you enjoy as well. But like George Burns, maybe you get to see yourself at half price. So if you're working and you love it, that's fine. It keeps you active. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. Let the elders who rule well be honored, especially the teachers and the preachers. Telling a quick story. Years ago when I had my painting business with my brother, I had a young man. His name was Marcos. He lived in New Hartford. It was Columbus Day, and we're going to go paint a house, and it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm like, where's Marcos? I called the house. He was only 18. He had just graduated high school. All right, so I call the house. His mother says, let me get him. He's sleeping. Sleeping? What? At 9:30? So he gets on the phone. He goes, yeah, Mr. Buzzy, what's up? I said, Marcos, where are you? We got a house to paint. He said, oh, it's Columbus Day. I thought we were off. Off? I said, Marcos, this isn't high school anymore. All right, now, fast forward the tape. About 3 years ago, I'm out here by the barn, and I see his neighbor having some tree work done. Young man comes up to me, and he says, you're Tom Bozzi? I said, yeah. He says, you may not remember me. He says, I'm Marcos. Now he was about 38 years old. I said, you're Marcos? He said, yeah. He said, I got to tell you something, Mr. Bozzi. He said, remember that day with Columbus Day? We laughed about it. He said, I got my own business now. He said, I'm married. I own a house. I have a daughter. He said, now listen, what it just said about 2 Timothy, about honoring teachers and preachers. This is what all of you do. This goes back to what is your 11:15. So he says to me, let me tell you something. He says, my business, he said, everything I learned from you and your brother Steve, he said, I incorporated in my business. He said, you not only taught us how to paint, he said, but you were very open with how to run a business and how to schedule work and all of that. He said, and I got such an education that, he said, when I started my business, he said, I'm going to adopt a lot of the things that I learned at Twin Painters. That's what Timothy means by honored preachers and teachers. All of you have that effect on people. You don't have to be a teacher in a classroom, okay? You don't have to be a preacher in a church. Sometimes ministry comes with a microphone. Sometimes ministry comes with a hammer. Sometimes ministry comes with a sense of humor. But you're all honored, okay? Honored as teachers and preachers because you're making an effect on people's lives. So that's what Timothy says. Let the elders be honored double. And that's good news. And as an older guy, to hear him say that, I said to myself, you know what? Yeah, we painted houses, we made a living, but we made a life for someone else. And goes back to legacy and goes back to what is your 11:15. Cindy McDonald, she played Catwoman in The Heart of Gotham. And she says, aging is not an option, not for anyone. It's how gracefully we handle the process, and luckily, how well the process handles us. Boom. how gracefully we handle the process. Are we gracefully? Are we appreciative? Are we acceptance of the fact and realizing where we're at and taking that where we are in our experience and our wisdom, like Lee Iacocca did, and still be green and like sap in the world today. We're not done. We're not done. Edith Perlman, and she wrote a lot of short stories. She says, the ordinary experience of aging alters and clarifies your view of the past, present, and future. Bing, bang, boom. Isn't that true? At my age, I see things so different than I did when I was 20. I don't want to be 20. I don't want to be 30. I don't want to be 40. If I could be an age my whole life, I'd be 63. What? Yeah, 63. Because just what Edith Perlman says, and everyone in the classroom, I'm looking around, they're all nodding, even George and Stan are nodding their head. At our ages, you see the past, present, and future much clearer than you did when you were younger. Because you didn't have all that stuff. You didn't have the machismo, right? The girls, especially women, oh, God, all the mademoiselle stuff. When you go through the checkout at the grocery store, women are under a lot of pressure. You don't have all of that now. And you could see your parents clear. You could see your past, and you could be honest with your past, and you'd be honest with the future. Isaiah says, even to your old age and to your gray hairs, I will carry you. So God is with us through this part of our life. Some of us are having a lot more health challenges than others, but the good news is God is with you, and God is with you in your friends and your family and in the beautiful day that you look outside. And know that the God who created you does not abandon you, and that he does rise from the dead and brings that light into your life. Our last George Burns quote, and then we hit the takeaway. Here it is. George Burns, the last funny thing that he's going to say about aging. I smoke cigars because at my age, if I don't have anything to hold on to, I'll fall over. I mean, could you see him with the cigar? It's so true. But George Burns really helps to lighten it up a little bit for us. But and by the way, he was born January the 20th, 1896. He lived to be 100 years old. Why? Because he had a good attitude. Any doctor will tell you, good attitude, a sense of humor prolongs life. It gives you a good quality of life. But eventually, the life ends, and then we go on to eternal life. And so let's hope that what we do here at our 1115 and a legacy, and not letting the old man in, and still having the sap and counting our friends instead of the years. Let's hope by doing that, then we will see our eternal Father at the other end. Abraham Lincoln, he says this, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. Let me read that one more time. In the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. When you go to the cemetery, you see, I hope for me it says 1957, then there's a dash. Hopefully it says 2047, but whatever. When you go to the cemetery, you see John Smith, you see two numbers, there's a dash. There's a poem. I can't recite the whole thing, but you know what matters? We always look and say, oh, look, John Smith was born here and he died there. It's irrelevant. What matters most in life is what you did in the dash. Just what Lincoln said. Okay? What matters in the end is the life in the years. You still have life. You still have a purpose. You still have a reason. You still have a pulse. You're listening to this show. All right? You are viable. Aging is a part of life. If we accept it, if we make changes, if we make corrections, we have to ask people to help us. And as we realize that we're still viable members of community, we're not outcasts, we can enjoy the years that we have ahead that God gives us. And that we can stay out till 2 o'clock in the morning having coffee, as they say in Long Island. Jock, you want to tie a bow on this and then play our pretty song at the end?
Well, you know, as we talked about earlier, yesterday was quite a day in terms of evaluating the landscape and taking in information from credible stakeholders in terms of addressing the issues for the elderly. And especially in the northwest corner where we have these regional issues that kind of highlight some of these challenges that our seniors are facing, such as transportation, food insecurity, income, loneliness. So we do have a myriad of challenges on the horizon in terms of how we deal with with this particular population. And as we all are getting older by the day, it can't be stated enough how important it is for us to stay as balanced as we can with our mental health, because we can be so affected by what goes on in the world that sometimes we lose hope. And when you lose hope, you lose so much more of your self-esteem, your self-worth, your potential or ability to work with different people, to collaborate. So it's very vitally important that as community members, we all understand how very important it is that our daily behavior can either add and enhance those issues or take away from them. So once again, T-Boz, you knock it right out of the park with another timely message that I think that we all can learn and grow from. So we appreciate your contributions to the station, and we look forward to hearing your next segment of Words of Wisdom and Moments of Meditation.
Well, I thank you, Jock. You know what I say, everyone? Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Stan, thank you. George by the door, thank you. Everyone hang around a little bit. Jock will be over to sign autographs and whatever, and take some time before you head back to the world. All right, Jock, thank you. Friday Eve. We'll be back next week. Let's hear that pretty song.